Hi guys, welcome back to Planet Mithril. My name is Mithril, and today I am really proud and happy to give you my take on how to paint Arathorn, the first chieftain of the Dunedain. Well, it just seems rude to have multiple heirs of Isildur on the channel and not tackle Aragorn's dear old dad, a weary, battle-hardened defender of the Northern Kingdom who met his end at the brutal hands of one quite nasty cave troll. With my Ranger of the North nearing completion, I felt it only fitting to get some paint on this awesome sculpt, using some beautifully rich tans and greens combined with tattered browns and grey tones to give Arathorn a really unique feel when combined together on the model. I'm super excited to share my recipe for him with you here today. Now I've undercoated my Arathorn using Citadel Chaos Black Spray prior to painting. Brushes ready guys, let's get painting. I'm starting by giving Arathorn's face and hands a base coat using Bugman's Glow. His hair and beard have been given a base coat now using Rhinox Hide. His leather jerkin, trousers and material on the underside of his braces now I'm giving a base coat using XV88. His stunning green overcoat is being started with a solid base coat of Caliban green. This will need a few thinner layers as the pigmentation in Caliban can be a bit touch and go over a black undercoat. There's a small fabric trim hanging down just below his chainmail. This I'm hitting quickly with some Castellan green just to break up the front a little bit. His leg straps and braces are now being base coated using Thondia Brown. All the metallics, namely the sword and chainmail, I'm base coating using Lead Belcher. All the extra straps, belts, the dagger sheath and the larger sack hanging over his back I'm base coating using Dryad Bark. His boots and the wrapping of the bow on his back are being base coated with a 1-to-1 mix of Skaven Black Dinge and Abaddon Black. The fletchings of the arrows are being hit now with some Rakarth flesh. The quiver for which is being base coated using Death Corp Drab. So many different greens on one model. Finally, the hilt of his dagger is carefully being picked out using Sycorax bronze. All the exposed skin now has been given a shade using diluted Reikland Flesh Shade. Pretty much all the browns now are being shaded using Agrax Earthshade, including the jerkin, the tanned leathers, straps, bracers, sacks, hair and beard. The green coat in turn is being shaded using Croak Green. Now don't let the swatch colour fool you, this will serve perfectly for the green tone I'm trying to get once finished. Finally, the metals, chainmail and bow wrap on Arathorn's back are being shaded using Nuln Oil. I'm applying an initial layer to the face and hands using a 1-to-1 mix of Bugman's Glow and Cadian Flesh Tone, leaving the Reikland Flesh Shade showing in the recesses between the fingers and particularly around his tired, aged ranger eyes. I'm applying another layer now using pure Cadian Flesh Tone, looking to further define the tired, worn expression on old Arathorn's face and further defining the fingers and grip over his sword. I'm building up the highlights now by adding Kislev flesh into my previous Cadian Flesh Tone layer, starting at a rough 1-to-1 ratio mix between the two and gradually building up over the more pronounced details of his facial features. A final edge highlight is now being applied using pure Kislev flesh, accentuating the highest and sharpest details of his face and defining the stress points over the knuckles and tips of his fingers. The eye recesses are now being painted in using Abaddon Black. And 2 dots of Pallid Witch flesh applied either side to finish off the eyes. I'm applying a blocking layer to the hair and beard now with a 1-to-1 mix of Rhinox hide and Knight's Questor flesh, focusing on building in the initial structure of the hair strands. This is now being further defined with a layer using pure Night Questor flesh, being more targeted over the individual strands of hair and creating a good sense of body to both hair and beard. I'm highlighting all the hair and beard finally with a 2:1 mix of Night Questor and Screaming Skull, desaturating the brown slightly to once again hint at Arathorn's age and weather-worn look. When you're happy with how your hair and beard are looking, a glaze can be applied of heavily diluted Reikland flesh shade to tie all the layers together and unify the look some more. Now it's time to start working on that long, glorious green coat. I'm not jealous in the slightest. I'm going to start by defining the shape and texture of the material first off with a 1:1 mix of Caliban Green and Warpstone Glow, leaving the shade showing in the recesses where I can. The Warpstone has a very strong tone, so if you feel like you want to include less here to begin with, then do feel free. I'm now going to be using pure Warpstone Glow and continue building up the layers and look of the coat. You can see I'm using lots of long straight lines and brush strokes to give the best finish I can, drawing this towards the edges and outer folds slightly more now to start building in an effective blend from shadow through to the lighter areas. Now for the initial highlights, I'm starting by adding in Krieg Khaki into the Warpstone Glow at a rough 2:1 ratio mix, being much more targeted and focused on the prominent edges and material folds to reinforce my blending. I've continued adding more Krieg Khaki into the mix for the next few highlight stages. You can see how targeted and precise I'm being here for my final extreme edge highlight. The yellowy greeny look of the khaki will help brighten the Warpstone without the green becoming too cartoony once finished. The final stage now is to apply a glaze over the entire coat using heavily diluted BL Tan Green to reinforce the blend and tie the layers and highlights together. The tan leathers now, jerkin and trousers, I'm being given the layer using Talan Sand, letting the Agrak Earth shade rest in the recesses and in any creases. This is now all being layered over with a 2:1 mix of Talan Sand and Screaming Skull. I want these to be a real aged and worn leathers to match the feel of my Arathorn, so the Screaming Skull desaturating the Talan Sand here works really well. continuing to add Screaming Sky into my mix as I continue highlighting up my tan leathers, and feel free to add as much or as little as you want depending on how bright you want the upper tones to be when they're finished. And finally, I'm glazing this with some heavily diluted Seraphim Sepia. The strappings on the legs and detailing on the braces now are being layered in using Blood Reaver flesh, with the strappings in particular taking particular care to leave the shade showing in the grooves between each strap as I work my way around his legs. These are all being layered over again, this time using Knight's Quest or flesh. With the straps I'm focusing more on the outer edges, leaving the Blood Reaver showing towards the centre, and with the braces you can see I'm being much more targeted over the line work detailing of the pattern. Final extreme edge highlight is now being applied to all these areas using KD and flesh tone, keeping them super precise to catch the sharpest edges of all the straps and bracer patterning. Once again, I'm tying all these parts together with the glaze, this time using diluted Seraphim Sepia. A small piece of green trim hanging below the train mount and giving a quick layer using some Strachan green. This is followed by a very quick edge highlight using Krieg Khaki just to make it pop a little bit more. All the black cloth around the bow and the boots as well are being given a layer using Skaven Black Dinge. This is being followed by a highlight using Storm Vermin Fur, framing the outer boot more and creating movement over the bow wrapping material creases. The sack now is getting its own layer with a 1-to-1 mix of dryad bark and Gawthor brown. I'm looking to try and leave the shade showing in the creases around the mouth of the bag where it's tied up. I want a nice solid mid-tone over the bulkier, rounder part of the sack before I get to the highlight stage. All the straps, the sack and the dagger sheath now are getting an extreme edge highlight using pure Gawthor brown, tackling the belts in the same way I did the leg strappings and just accentuating the stress points of the sack and the edge of the sheath. The quiver now is getting a layer with a 1-to-1 mix of Deathcorp drab and old green camo. This is being followed by a highlight using pure old green camo. The detailing over the arrow fletchings is now being dot highlighted using coloured witch flesh. The sword and chainmail is now being highlighted using Stormhose silver, and the edge of the blade and detailing around the hilt. The chainmail is just getting a super light dry brush just to lift it off a little bit from all the other colours. Finally, all the coat buttons and any other gold detailing has been picked out with Sycorax bronze to match the colour of the dagger sheath. And these are all just being targeted with a little dot highlight of Stormhose silver just to make the edges and the corners pop a little bit more. There we are. The aged, world-weary leader of the Dunedain and father of the greatest hero in Middle-earth is now finished and ready to stand, albeit ill-fated, against the terrors that threaten the Northern Kingdom. Some beautiful browns and greens here, which have really turned this model into a figurehead it needs to be. For basing tips, please head over and check out my 5-minute bases playlist. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to all our patrons for continuing to support the channel. You can support us over there for as little as £1 a month, but the higher tier gets you access to a wealth of materials, a wealth of online resources, and you get to vote on future tutorials every month. There is absolutely no obligation. It's very much appreciated if you do choose to do this. It just helps keep the light on and the content coming. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Take care and happy hobbying.